I walked along the rice field embankment, enjoying the fresh air that was still filled with the scent of morning dew. A gentle breeze blew gently, shaking the lush green rice fields on my left and right. The sky stretched bright blue, with a few white clouds floating slowly, as if enjoying the same tranquility as I felt at that moment. Suddenly, a rumbling sound broke the silence. The sound sounded heavy and rhythmic, like a machine working. I stopped in my tracks, trying to listen more closely. The sound came from a distance, from the direction of one of the rice fields that had not been planted. Curiosity drove me to look for the source of the sound. That morning, the village atmosphere felt so peaceful. I walked further, passing several rice field embankments that were still wet with dew. My feet sank slightly into the soft soil, leaving footprints along the path. The closer I got, the clearer the sound became, mixed with the sound of trickling water from the irrigation channel that flowed on the side of the rice field. Finally, from behind the coconut trees on the edge of the rice field, I saw it. A farmer was sitting on a large red tractor, controlling the machine with great skill. The tractor moved slowly, plowing the previously dense and dry rice field soil. The plow blade tore the soil, turning over the top layer, making it looser and ready to be planted. I stood on the edge of the rice field, watching in awe how the farmer worked. His strong hands gripped the steering wheel, his body swaying slightly following the movement of the tractor passing over the uneven ground. Every now and then, he wiped the sweat on his forehead with his sleeve, then returned to focusing on controlling the machine that was the main tool in his work. All around, the morning atmosphere still felt calm. Small birds perched on tree branches, chirping happily as if to give encouragement. The wind blew a few fallen leaves onto the wet surface of the rice fields. I could smell the distinctive scent of freshly plowed soil, a fragrance mixed between wet soil and the remains of straw that were starting to decompose. I continued to watch, enjoying the sight that I rarely saw up close. For me, this was not just an ordinary sight. There was something so calming in seeing a farmer working diligently, in hearing the sound of a tractor blending with nature, in feeling the cool air caressing my skin. I smiled a little, realizing how meaningful the hard work of the farmers was. They were the ones who with their own hands ensured that this land remained fertile, that the rice continued to grow, and that we could all enjoy the fruits of their labor. I smiled a little, realizing how much the hard work of the farmers meant. They were the ones who, with their own hands, ensured that the land remained fertile, that the rice continued to grow, and that we all enjoyed the fruits of their labor. I walked around the rice field so that I could see the view from every angle and with a deeper sense of feeling. That day, I learned something valuable, about perseverance, about nature, and about how life in this village works in a beautiful balance. I was still standing on the edge of the vast rice field, observing the expanse of land that had just been harvested. The remains of straw were still scattered on its surface, turning yellow under the rising sun. Several sparrows flew low, as if looking for grains of rice that might still be left among the dry straw. The wind blew softly, carrying the distinctive aroma of rice fields, a combination of soil, water, and rotting leaves. The tractor was running steadily, plowing the remains of the harvest, tearing the soil that was originally dry and hard into loose and ready to be planted again. The plow blade rotated, turning the soil and mixing it with the remaining straw so that it could become natural fertilizer for the new plants later. I got closer, observing more closely how this process was taking place. The previously dry soil now began to appear softer and moister after being stirred by the tractor blades. Every now and then, the farmer stopped his machine, got down to make sure that the soil was really being worked properly. With deft hands, he tidied up the parts that were still not fully worked, then got back on the tractor to continue his work. This rice field has gone through a long cycle. Several months ago, on the same land, the rice grew well, turning green before finally turning yellow as a sign that it was ready to be harvested. The farmers worked hard at that time, harvesting the results of their hard work with pride. Now, after the harvest is over, this land is not left alone. It must be worked again, prepared to welcome new rice seedlings that will grow again and continue the cycle of life. Around the rice fields, several other farmers were also starting to prepare. Some were cleaning the irrigation channels so that water could flow smoothly to the rice fields. Others were bringing natural fertilizer to be mixed with the newly plowed soil. Everyone worked with enthusiasm, because they knew that the success of the next harvest depended on the preparations made now. I stood longer, admiring the hard work and perseverance of the farmers. They never stopped. After the harvest, they did not rest for long, because they knew that the rice fields had to be prepared immediately for the next planting season. The land that was plowed today would become a place for the growth of rice seedlings that would later give life again. That day, I realized how important this process was, a cycle that kept repeating itself, without stopping. From harvest to preparation, from empty land back to fertile land. Behind the grains of rice that we eat every day, there is a long story of hard work, perseverance, and love for the land. The sun began to rise slowly from behind the hills, illuminating the expanse of rice fields that were still glistening with morning dew. The fresh air typical of the countryside slipped through the shady trees, carrying the scent of wet soil after a night of drizzle. The chirping of birds answered each other, creating a natural harmony that soothed the hearts of anyone who heard it. In the midst of that peaceful atmosphere, he wore a wide hat to protect himself from the scorching sun that was slowly getting higher. With firm and experienced hands, he gripped the steering wheel of his tractor, a tool that helped him cultivate the land more efficiently. Every now and then, the farmer smiled with satisfaction as he saw his land starting to be ready to be planted again. For him, this rice field was not just a field, but also a hereditary heritage that had to be cared for with love and perseverance. In the distance, several other farmers were also starting to do their activities. Some were weeding, while others were preparing rice seeds that would later be planted. Mothers were seen walking on the embankments, carrying baskets of breakfast for their husbands and children who were working in the fields. Small children ran happily around the rice fields, playing while occasionally helping their parents with light tasks. As time went by, the sun rose higher. Sweat began to bead on the farmer's face, but his spirit did not diminish. He knew that his hard work today would be a blessing in the future. With full hope, he continued to move his tractor, tilling the land that would one day grow golden rice grains, a source of life for his family and many others around him. The village remained calm and cool, even though the farmers were busy working. The wind blew gently, chasing away the fatigue that was beginning to approach. This bright day was the beginning of a long cycle, a never-ending struggle to maintain the balance of nature and life. Not far from there, a river flows quietly. Its water is clear, reflecting the sunlight that slowly rises in the sky. This river is a source of life for the farmers in this village. Because of its existence, they have no trouble getting water for irrigation. Small channels have been made to channel water from the river to the rice fields, ensuring that each plant gets an adequate supply of water. I saw how the water from this river slowly seeped into the newly plowed rice field soil. The grains of soil that were originally dry began to become moist, mixed with the remains of straw that would become natural fertilizer. Thanks to smooth irrigation, farmers here grow rice more often than other crops. They do not need to worry about water shortages, even when the dry season arrives, because this river continues to flow steadily throughout the year. In the distance, there are other farmers preparing rice seeds that will soon be planted in the rice fields that are being plowed. He looks like he is working diligently. Helping each other has become a tradition that is deeply embedded in this village. In the next week or two, the seeds will be planted, and the rice fields that now look empty will be decorated again with the light green color of the rice shoots that are starting to grow. I can imagine how this cycle continues to repeat itself. After the harvest, the land is plowed, irrigated, and planted again. A few months later, the rice will grow well, changing from light green to gold, then being harvested and returning to its original stage. This is the life of farmers, full of hard work and hope. The existence of this river is a blessing for them. Without having to depend on the rainy season, they can plant rice more often, even several times a year. This means they can get a bigger harvest, enough to meet their family's needs and sell to the market. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air mixed with the scent of wet soil. The river that flows quietly beside the rice fields seems to be a silent witness to the struggle of the farmers. The water continues to flow, bringing life to the land, plants, and people around it. That day, I realized that behind the beauty of the vast rice fields, there is a natural system that continues to work. There is a river that gives life, there are strong hands that cultivate the land, and there is hope that grows with the rice that will come. This is not just a job, but part of a long cycle that ensures that the earth continues to give, as long as humans are willing to care for it with love and perseverance. I got up, I bowed to the farmer, I said thank you for being allowed to see and observe the farmer while working in the rice fields.